Friends, we're live. CFLW the show for this Friday, August the 1st. Rusty with you here. I hope you're doing well. As we typically do, we do a live show on Friday. Normally it's a little bit earlier in the day, but my internet provider had other plans and decided to kill the internet at the house for about 11 hours today. So unable to come to you at the normal time of 1 o'clock, but we're here now live. We got a few storms to talk about at the hour. Appreciate you guys tuning in on this Friday. Thanks for jumping in on the chat. Hi, Therese. Hi, Farrah. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's get started. Of course, CFLW, the show, as always, sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Friends, it is storm season to get storm damage of any kind. Hail damage, wind damage, hurricane, have a burst pipe. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. They do offer free consultation and policy reviews, and they do cover the entire state of Florida. Go to leanomelaw.com if you guys would like more information. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Again, we have a couple of thunderstorms to talk about. I'm not on live right now because we have impactful, extensive, severe storms. I'm on live now because, again, we normally do a Monday and Friday live show, but we weren't able to do it at 1 o'clock today, so waited to do it till 7. But there's plenty to talk about. First of all, we'll get into these storms, and secondly, we'll talk about getting into a wetter weekend, getting a little bit back into a normal summer pattern beginning tomorrow afternoon for A, more widespread storms, and B, these storms to develop a little bit earlier in the day. The last several days, the most widespread storms that we've seen have been very late in the evening hours. Some of this starting around 6, 7 o'clock, but a lot of the activity lingering 8, 9, 10, even 11 o'clock at night. So current temperatures on the board. We're actually rain-cooled a little bit from MCO south towards Kissimmee, where we've had some of these showers and storms develop. Now, we have a special weather statement, as you can see, for most of Osceola counties, and it goes until 7:15 for the next 10 minutes. Storm motion is kind of southwest right now, but these storms are actually building, and some of this activity is actually building north to the far eastern sides of Orange County and close to the I-95 corridor, sneaking into Brevard County, just to the west of places like Rockledge, Cocoa, Sharps, and Port St. John. If you live in those areas, and you look off to the west, you're going to see a really dark sky. So for this special weather statement overall, this is what it looks like right now. Again, line of thunderstorms extending from the Lone Cabbage Fish Camp to Holopau, 7 miles south of Harmony to 5 miles northwest of Lake Kissimmee, wind gusts of 50 miles an hour. Notice it says movement is slow and erratic. So my system has kind of a building southwest, but really this entire line has just been kind of developing and propagating off to the southwest while also kind of building up towards the east. Now, that's a nice cluster of storms, fairly good lightning associated with this. 150 mile an hour, or 150 lightning strikes here. Good Lord, if we had 150 mile an hour wind, something would be completely different. But you get the idea. That's where the clusters of storms are. When I loop this up for you guys just real quickly, again, this is the last half-hour loop. And it's not really moving much, okay? Again, we'll see maybe if this tries to get a little bit farther north, if they just kind of stay stationary. Just note that there's a shower trying to develop over Claremont, and this gets interesting because you get these lone showers this time of the night, and, as hot as it's been, there's a lot of low-level, heat to play with here. This could quickly develop. So if you live in Groveland and Claremont, that's an area I'll be monitoring for to see if that kind of tries to develop. Also, if you live in Brevard County, some of this activity is trying to make a run towards I-95 at the hour. But again, special weather statement for those particular storms. Let's take a look at the wind gusts as well, see if we've had any wind gusts, and I'm going to jump into the chat, say hi to you guys as well. I just want to make sure I kind of covered the bases before we got started. Look, outside of the thunderstorms, Palm Bay's had a nice little 30-mile-an-hour breeze. Satellite Beach in at 24. Blue Goose, how you doing? Yeah, Blue Goose, I know you know that lone cabbage place, no doubt about it. 90 and 70. That's rough. A good early evening to you, everyone. All right, as always, we have our live cameras here at CFLW. We're going to check in with those for you guys real quick. And one other component of this live stream, if you guys want to stick around, we're going to talk a little bit more about the tropics for the first 2 weeks of August. I'm telling you guys, there are signs that at the end of this first week of August, we could start to see some development and potentially really beginning to amp up the development in the Atlantic in a short order here. Might still take another week to really get activated, but the things I'm looking at are potentially bringing us a very active middle and latter part of August, tropically wise. All right, live look outside to Winter Garden. Camera's cooperating, it's still on. And by the way, that is the shower developing in Claremont. That's why I wanted to show you that on radar first. This is what I love that we can do. We got the shower on the radar system, and that is the live look to that shower. This is Winter Garden, if you know that area, far western side of Orange County. That camera is looking off towards the west, so you can see the sun lowering across, down the horizon there as we get deep into this Friday evening. And backlit is the shower that's going to develop. And we'll see if it becomes anything more than that, but you can certainly see the lower base to that shower there in Lake County. To Conway we go. This is a beautiful shot. Conway area, southeast side of downtown Orlando, if you will, looking off towards the east. A lot of blue sky. Now, I'll take myself back off camera. That is the northern extent of some of the showers that are trying to get into Brevard County at the hour. So we're looking back a little bit, far enough to the south to be able to catch the northern extent of some of that development at the hour. And then to the Disney area we go. Now, we are looking into the thunderstorms that are in the distance. Lake Buena Vista right now is quiet. The attractions area is quiet. So for all the attractions there, of course, this camera is just 1 mile from the Disney property in the Magic Kingdom. So always keep a close eye on this camera, especially when there's some thunderstorms around. We always know there's thousands of folks who are out in Lake Buena Vista and I Drive here, enjoying the attractions in this area. And so we always got to keep an eye out for them. So that's what it looks like at the hour. How you doing, Farah? Beautiful shot. Appreciate you. Hi, Asheru. How are you? Nothing in Conway area right now, just dark clouds to the north. Got it, man. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well. Did I miss anyone yet? Blue Goose Coco could, but this is still very slow, erratic movement of this activity, right? It's really not doing too much right now. It's sitting, so, if anyone was viewing us from the Harmony area right now, they're getting hammered. That's some really heavy rain. Again, in this environment, you start to go from the potential severe weather threat, you transition into a flood threat. If these storms sit over this area, Holopole and Harmony, for a length of time, we could start getting some flood advisories in these areas because of the excessive rain. St. Cloud is just off to the north of that, and again, we'll see if that builds there, but it looks like kind of the sneaking away storm is up here. Now, again, at this point in time, I wouldn't expect these, they're not going to be severe for the most part, right? And that's what's been the case the last several evenings. We've had clusters of stronger storms that have produced what we call special weather statements. Main threats have been winds of 50 miles an hour and some very small pea-sized hail. Both of those are very marginally, potentially destructive. The pea hail is not going to cause any problems to your cars or your homes, but the winds at 50, that could knock down some tree limbs, cause some power outages. That could take down some unsecured objects that are light in the yard, but nothing more than that, right? We're not looking at anything extensive here. That's when you're pushing that 60-mile-an-hour threshold and that inch-size hail. That's when you start to get to more destructive. But it's a good thunderstorm right now that's trying to get into the I-95 corridor there of central and the northern sides of Brevard County. And again, just one little shower developing here in Lake County. All right, so that's what it looks like here. Let's break down how we're going to change the pattern starting tomorrow. First of all, we've had a dominant ridge of high pressure, which has been over us, which has caused the extensive heat, right? The high temperatures that have broken records, the feels like temperatures that have broken records. That's finally beginning to break down, okay? And we're going to see some of this activity right now that you see north of us begin to slide south into the area tomorrow. We'll also see the sea breezes become more activated. Overall rain and storm chances will be going up, and we're going to go from rain chances that had been below average most of this week, just cropping up some stronger storms here and there, but as far as coverage goes, below average for this time of the year, to going above average starting tomorrow and even elevating that chance into early next week. All right, you can already see some of the thunderstorms near Tallahassee, but you can clearly see near these boundaries farther north, how extensive the thunderstorm activity is here. And when we look at the warnings in place, again, you're going to just see, is this the southeast in August, right? Nothing is extremely organized, but the storms are numerous. And again, anywhere you have red are going to be severe thunderstorm warnings. So, we had some roll through the Charlotte area a little bit earlier. Again, 60-mile-an-hour winds. That's the main threat. Some small hail, but just really expansive. And that is going to be working its way into our area starting tomorrow. Now, is it going to break the heat a little bit? Yeah, it's going to break the heat a little bit. Is it going to be outrageously cooler? No. Could there still be the opportunity? I got to double check actually with the weather service here. I believe, at least at this point in time, we don't have a heat advisory for tomorrow. Okay? We don't have a heat advisory for tomorrow. I still expect feels like temperatures, though, to get up to like 105. Look at earlier in the day, by the way, Gainesville's actual air temperature was 97. And again, here's your feels like numbers in the triple digits, a lot of areas, if you didn't get a passing shower or storm. Teresa, did you have a little bit of rain there at Kissimmee? Thought you might have a little bit earlier in the day. And again, you can see we had some showers develop over downtown Orlando towards MCO, and then kind of work their way off towards the east. How does the tropics look? The Polish redneck, put a pin in that. We are going to get into the tropics. I promise you that. I got a very interesting graphic I want to show you guys, and I'll show you the models as well. Great question, and I am going to cover that. We will do that here as we get past this weekend's forecast. All right, so let's go back out here. Now again, that special weather statement is gone. That's what I was looking for. So it just expired. So we'll see if the Weather Service paints anything else on here. But again, not expecting this to be severe. Again, the reason why I'm on is because we do the Monday and Friday show, and my internet was down for like 11 hours today. Finally came back at like 3 o'clock. So doing the show a little bit later, but it's a perfect segue into the weekend anyway. All right, so let's break down the models. And this is not going to be a very long live stream. I want to make that clear. I've got a couple of forecasts to talk about, then we'll get into the tropics. But this is the HER model. And I think we're ready to go with this. Nope. Let me set it here. All right. So let's take a look at what the forecast looks like for this weekend, right? First of all, as this is looping through already, you see more green on the map, all right? I do expect there to be better coverage of the storms over the weekend. I expect there to be storms that develop earlier in the day. Now, again, you can see that Future Track, or HER model, whatever you want to call it here, is decent with the storms right now, right? They're over Osceola County, maybe not as high just north of Lake Okeechobee, but the initial condition of the model is not bad. Generally speaking, even though some storms are building up towards Brevard County, it tries to actually push it south and quiet us down quicker than what we've had the last couple of evenings. I'm still not going to rule out a few isolated showers or storms developing tonight in the evening, and they've been really noisy lately, haven't they, man? I mean, those thunderstorms, man, there's been a lot of lightning and a lot of thunder produced with this deep into the evening hours and even after midnight. That's not out of the question, okay, but probably not a ton. Now, tomorrow, we could actually see a few showers developing across our western zones even before lunchtime tomorrow. Those will be somewhat disorganized, but if you live from Crystal River down towards Weeki Wachee and Holiday and Palm Harbor and the Clearwater area, St. Pete, Bradenton, Sarasota, even across portions of I-75, you get a chance for a few storms to develop here, even as we get towards lunch. Now, potentially around lunchtime, some of the storms do become a little bit stronger, okay? Fair amount of instability in the atmosphere. We're going to have the sea breeze kick in, and again, we don't have as much subsidence or sinking air, so as these thunderstorms develop, they should be able to vertically develop much quicker and be more potent than what we've had basically this week. Now, as we go deeper into the afternoon hours, these storms should begin to kind of swing off towards the east a bit, and eventually, as we get towards the late afternoon and evening hours, work their way to I-95. So we are looking tomorrow at a west to east motion of our storms. Storms developing in the in the late morning to the early afternoon hours across I-75, the middle part of the day across I-4, and eventually towards I-95 as we get towards the latter half of the afternoon in the early evening hours. Underneath this environment, I would expect the storms to be marginally strong. Wind gusts of 50 plus miles an hour would be the main threat, some pea-sized hail. See if anything gets more organized or stronger than that. I'll be monitoring the situation for you guys tomorrow, but just overall higher rain and storm chances starting tomorrow. Now look, it's still going to be impressively hot, right? Temperatures are still going to be mid 90s in most areas. Feels like temperatures are going to be at or above 100 almost everywhere. You know, maybe not the 110 or 112 that we've had or even higher in some spots, but 100 to 105, you can book it. Still going to be pretty nasty tomorrow afternoon. Therese, no rain yet. Gotcha. All right. Appreciate that. And your best chance has already passed you by, to be quite honest, if this wants to continue to sink off to the south. So that's what it looks like tomorrow. And again, we end the day with some storms across I-95. Now, as we get into our Sunday, we'll start to see again the redevelopment of showers and storms fairly early and then working their way back into the afternoon hours. And just to zoom out and show you the overall shot, a lot of this activity that is to the north will continue to work its way into the eastern Gulf, across our peninsula, and into the western Atlantic. If you guys remember from Monday's show, we talked about, right, just like with Invest 3L, 94L, I believe those are the two invests in this area, and of course Tropical Storm Chantal over the July 4th weekend, you get this trough to develop off this decaying front, and you can get some spin. And you can see the HRRR model does have that off the Carolina coastline. At this point, I think right now, if anything were to get a little interesting or squirrely tropically, it's going to be off the Carolina coastline and moving well away from us. It does not look like it's developing close to home. It doesn't look like it would have any direct impact. The models really aren't picking up on it much. The European model is more aggressive with this, but it's pulling it offshore as it does. But you can clearly see that spin right there associated with this trough coming off the coast. Now look, there's still plenty of moisture in the eastern Gulf that will get shot in waves over the peninsula. And you notice the west to east movement with everything. And that's why things are just going to get wetter. So if I go from here and I pick up the GFS model, and let's take this out. We'll just take it out to Tuesday evening. How does that sound? Sounds perfect. Yeah, thanks, guys. Again, appreciate you joining me here for this late edition of CFLW, the show on this Friday. If you're here, I really do want to thank you for that. Do me a quick favor as well, and like the live stream. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Again, this is a live-only channel. Normally I do a Monday and Friday show just to keep you guys up to date with my thoughts, but otherwise, I'm on live for impactful weather here in Central Florida, monitoring the storms, monitoring anything in the tropics. So if we pick up the model here on the GFS into Sunday afternoon, again, you can still see the better chance is farther to the north, but I think the GFS is undercutting some of the rain and storms that we can have on our Sunday afternoon. Is it a washout? No. But is it a much more typical summer afternoon with storm coverage? Absolutely. And then as we get into Monday, you can see that the storms again billow back up. Pretty decent chance there. Tuesday, again, same situation. Pretty decent chance for storms. 50, 60, maybe even as high as a 70% chance as we get into the later part of Sunday and the early part of the week. All right. So storm chances just going up. The heat, the humidity is going to be there, but from that undercutting rain chance that we've had lately to a much better opportunity. Now, severe weather threat for today, again, you have a general marginal risk where we have that trough and the better chance for storms. Tomorrow, it gets a little bit more interesting towards I-10, but I don't think this is kind of a little push, a little squall that's coming south in an organized fashion that could produce some straight line winds of around 60. Is not expected to get into our area, might not even make Tallahassee or Jacksonville. But winds in the southern and southwest sides of Georgia and southeast Alabama, like Dothan and Columbus and Albany and places like that, that'll be the main threat there. And then Sunday, it's just a general risk for the thunderstorm. So there's no organized severe weather expected. Again, not going to rule out the opportunity for some stronger storms here and there. When we look at the rainfall totals here, go back over to the HRRR. again, what you're going to notice here is that you get your typical summer areas where there's some areas that are going to be dry or mainly dry, and there are other areas that are likely to get, 2-3+ inches of rain, right? It's hard to exactly equate exactly where this is going to fall, but you understand the scenario here that there's more areas that have that opportunity as we get through. And again, this is just Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So between now, because this is not accounting for anything that's already fallen, between now and Sunday afternoon, we expect there to be a fairly decent chance to have some decent rainfall totals from especially I-4 south. Potentially the HRRR model is a little bit underdoing some of the activity up here, but you get the idea if you live in like Marion or Northern Lake or Sumter or inland Flagler counties that you're probably going to be a little bit drier. St. John's, Putnam as well. And there's that heavier rain south. Now, again, you want to talk about where the really active weather is. Look at all of this rain coming off with this trough off the Carolina coastline. They're going to get heavy rain totals to go along with the opportunity to see a little bit of that spin. So we're not in the zone for the most impactful weather from this, but we are going to see our storm chance climb up as well. Okay, so let's get into I just got a couple of, I only had a quick second to make a few graphics, so let me show you those. For Orlando over the weekend, 60% chance for storms both Saturday and Sunday, even up to a 70% chance on Monday. Once again, any of these storm clusters that develop could produce winds of at least 50 miles an hour and some small pea-sized hail. The most stout storms could produce winds of up to 60 miles an hour and maybe some half-inch plus-sized hail, but that's going to be few and far between, generally speaking, right? So, marginal severe storms at the highest threshold over the weekend. Look at these temperatures. Again, 96 tomorrow, but it feels like it's 105. 95 on Sunday, but it feels like it's 102. 95 on Monday, feels like temperature will probably be at least 100 again, right? Maybe not as hot as Sunday, but still stinking hot. Morning lows, that'll be in the upper 70s. Of course, this time of the year, it's very rare to get any break from the heat in the overnight hours, but at least we don't have morning lows in the, 81, 82 degree range. Even in Tampa, the lows have come down a little bit as well. 50% chance for storms early tomorrow. 50% chance for storms pretty early on Sunday. Relatively speaking, storm movement should generally be west to east from the west coast to the east coast through the late morning, early afternoon, and into the late afternoon hours as well. 94 tomorrow feels like of 104. 95 on Sunday feels like of 104 as well. And again, even a little bit stormier afternoon in the Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater areas into Monday afternoon. 96 the daytime high. Morning lows in the upper 70s. It's not going to shock me if a couple of areas around Tampa, St. Pete, especially near the coast, stick to right around 80 for a morning low. Thank you, Blue Goose. Hey, Farah, we got a short 15-minute shower today in Ormond. We'll see. Thank you, the Polish Redneck. I appreciate you. Okay, so weekend. Anyone have any specific questions about that, right? Some storms, better chance than what we've had. If you have any plans for the weekend, especially in the afternoon hours, stay weather aware, but on the West Coast, you might even get some of these storms a little bit earlier in the day. All right, so, and again, I'm keeping an eye on this. We've got, and I'll just double check and make sure we've got this on. I do. I've got the special weather statements on. It looks like it's come down a little bit. You see the lightning count has dropped too. And look, I mean, it's a decent little cluster here down the beach line where it splits to 520, in Brevard County, Port St. John, Sharps area, but nothing outrageous. Just a good thunderstorm. Harmony's still getting some heavier rain. Again, if it sits in that area, then there you go. And we have that one shower here. And since we have the camera, before I get into the tropics, because we have the camera, we got to take a look at it. There it is from Winter Garden. Looks like it's drifted just north of this camera because it's now just moved north of 50, north of Colonial. It would probably be right over that roof you see there on the right-hand side of your screen. But you notice that there's a few extra, lower, darker clouds that have developed there. But at this point in time, if that one didn't get going anymore, then more than likely in the short term, nothing's going to really happen in Lake County or in Orange County, because that one was all out by itself, had its own environment to play with, and if it was gonna pop here late in the early evening hours, it would have done so. So it doesn't look like that one is going to be an issue, right? Because in this last 15, 20 minutes, it would have already been producing some light and then getting going. All right, tropics. So, I do the Meteorologist channel. And if you guys want daily updates across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, I encourage you guys to go there, where I talk about the tropics all the time, obviously. And of course, anything tropically here in Florida, I'm going to cover for you guys. And we'll do that live when necessary, when we have to. If you guys are friends of the channel from last year, covered Helene and Milton live for you guys as well. All right, let's see here. Let's get the reflectivity up. Again, as I shift the models and shift time frames, I have to kind of reset things in the background. I'm going to take, and this is the GFS model. I'm going to show you an interesting graphic on the European model. I'm going to take this full 2 weeks out. All right. Now look, we've had 3 named storms so far this season. Some folks, you know, on this Media Mundo channel have been like, Rusty, tropics have been a bust, right? You know, nothing's happening, nothing's going to happen. Climatologically, we get the 3rd named storm of the season this first few days of August. We've actually been running ahead climatologically on named storms. Granted, the 3 named storms didn't add up to much in most spots, and Andrea probably never should have been named, or if it was named, it should have been named, you know, 24 or 36 hours before, you know, it did, because it became post-tropical in 12 hours. But the point is that we still have 3 named storms. The Saharan air layer is beginning to dissipate, and that's exactly what we would expect this time of the year. Everything climatologically is on par, where we start to look into the eastern Atlantic, off of the west coast of Africa, for these waves to hold on and to continue to stay organized and gather some steam as they get closer to the Lesser Antilles, right? Now, the GFS model has actually been the weaker of the two at developing systems here in the main development region of the Atlantic Basin, and then pushing them back to the west and the northwest. The one thing that both the GFS and the European model have done, though, from about the 10th to the 14th, so if we look ahead, is take these systems and drive them farther north and west, whatever they might be. So the latest run of the GFS actually develops a system right here, right into the Caribbean, and kind of pulls it into the Yucatan, with potentially, you know, again, a broader spin over the Bahamas or a broader spin over the Northwest Caribbean, all right? But you get the idea that eventually, again, starting at about August 9th, August 10th through August 14th, that there's a lot more potential in this area, right? Developing near the Lesser Antilles, which is here, and then pushing off either to the west or to the north and to the west. If I show you guys the absolute vorticity, this is the spin in the atmosphere. It's not at the surface, but it is a composite of the low levels of the surface. I use this a lot as an analysis tool for myself to look at the models and where we're getting areas of spin and if they hold together, how much moisture is associated with them, is the drier air from the Saharan air layer, you know, not allowing this thing to really wrap up, right? So I just want to show you this real quickly, and hopefully it will cooperate and loop up fully here in just a second. And while it doesn't, I get a drink. The Saharan dust is more than likely not going to be a big factor for us. Blue Goose, we could still get some thin Saharan air layers, but I don't expect it to be a huge impact to us here, right? Now, could it still undercut potential tropical development activity in the MDR of the Atlantic for the first little bit of August? Absolutely, right? But you can see here as we get towards, again, you know, it keeps crapping out, doesn't it? Every so often, these things like to do this. That's okay. This wasn't the big show anyway, right? Let me set the scenario. You're getting stronger activity here that's trying to push north and to the west. This is the GFS model, okay? And the GFS model can be known to kind of, you know, overdo things a little bit from time to time, right? I'm going to show you a still frame of the European model from the 14th, so 2 weeks out, all right? That's not it. That better be it. Please tell me it's going to be it. All right, hang on a second. Oh, no. All right. Did I put it in another folder? Probably, you know what I did? You know what I did? I think I shoved it in a video folder. All right. Here's what we're going to do, because I can probably fix this in a half second. I'm going I'm gonna go to this mode and take myself off camera. So you guys should see this. We'll look at the winter garden camera as I fix my mistake. I don't want to build up this graphic and then not show you guys this graphic. That would be worse than taking 2 seconds to fix the error. I think what I did is I took a still image and I threw it in a, I threw it in a video file. So that's my bad. Most of the time that still works, but this time it was not feeling it. All right. Now it might take a half second. Might take a half second for the file to transfer over so I can show you guys. So we'll just take a look at this beautiful shot. What do you say we take a look at Conway? So that's the northern extent of the thunderstorms trying to sneak into Brevard County. Again, beautiful glistening there. Kind of that sun reflecting off. It's a great shot, isn't it? Yeah, chat amongst yourselves, Blue Goose. I'll give you a topic. Why Rusty did that. Hi, Amy. How are you doing? Good to see you. You guys can handle yourselves. And again, there's some of the thunderstorms back down towards the attractions. But if you're headed to the attractions, we're looking pretty good overall. Okay, this is going to go blank for a second, but I'm hoping in just a half second it'll pop up. And there it is. All right. Told you it wasn't going to take long. So this is a fun graphic to talk about. This is the European ensemble members for basically the evening of the 13th. Okay, so we're like 13 days away, 12 days away. Now again, you get what's called the deterministic run of the European model, and that's what you typically see. It's the main model run. But they also produce ensemble members, and each of them starts with slightly different initial conditions. Because remember, some of the atmospheric conditions are estimated, right? Or some of them aren't, absolute. So you have these members that come up with different initial conditions, and then they go out in time, and they kind of go out on their own, right? So you're looking at the plots of all the ensemble members for the evening of the 13th. Now I want to be clear. It's not as if the European model is saying there's going to be like 15 tropical systems. It's where each individual member, if it thinks there's going to be a tropical system, is plotting it for this specific time and how strong it could be. So some of the ensemble members, right, have hurricanes and stronger storms. Some of them have weak systems, and some of them have nothing at all. Okay, because if all 50 members were showing, this thing would be lit like Christmas tree. It's already bad enough. But the point I want to make with this graphic is that starting around August 10th, when the European model begins to develop a system close to the Lesser Antilles and the Virgin Islands, as it goes north and west, all right, it makes it stronger, and more members of the European model pick up on the solution and produce a tropical system. Could be anywhere from the western side of the Gulf to near Bermuda and well off the east coast of the United States. But obviously, we're in this zone where we're going to have to pay attention. The signals that I have been seeing as I've been looking at things, and I do it on a daily basis, obviously this time of the year, continue to trend in an uptick in activity beginning the second week of August. And for us, a lot of the solutions take those developing storms somewhere near us, okay? The GFS model had been behind the European model in doing that actually, but now is beginning to trend in that direction as well, okay? So we've got plenty of time, and again, we take this with a large grain of salt, right? But I can't ignore the signals, and I'm not going to, just completely ignore them because, it's still 10 to 14 days out. I don't like what we call chase the models, meaning I'm not showing you the 14-day graphic every day and saying, look, at some point in time I'm going to be right, because within a 14-day window something's going to finally develop and I'll finally be right, throwing the dart at the dartboard. But this is a trend I've been watching for a while. And we talked about the overall Atlantic hurricane season, where these storms gain north latitude quickly and then they push west into our area. And again, our accumulated cyclone energy number, right, which is called the ACE for the hurricane season, is actually above average around the eastern Gulf, the western side of the Atlantic, the Bahamas, and over our peninsula. So let's keep this in mind, my friends. All right, jump to the chat. Ta-da, exactly. I see a big up. Wait, I hear you, Blue Goose. Again, don't buy into any one of these specifically, but look at them as a grouping and just understand that the models are trying to develop better organized tropical systems, potentially approaching our area towards the end of the second week of August. And that's what I want to get out. And, from here, we could absolutely start to really see kicked up activity, right? Again, we're on the precipice of this. I don't want to bust down that door and just be like, here we go. But as I continue to look at the trends of not only the European and the GFS models, but just the overall global trends and oscillations and just everything that kind of goes into it. And there's a lot of other academic meteorologists who's smarter than me. So I like to read what they're thinking as well. It's all trending in a direction where activity could increase very quickly as we get into the middle part of August. All right. By the way, back out here, just want to highlight real quick that we do have a special weather statement. Nothing outrageous, but a special weather statement here, special marine warning, excuse me. That's what I meant. As it crosses the Banana River there, Mims, Titusville, will head off even into southern sides of Volusia County. Might sneak up towards Oak Hill, but that would be about it. And again, this shower never developed in Claremont. Okay. Does anyone have any specific questions about what we just talked about? Speak now. That was one of my devices disconnecting from Bluetooth. Apparently it spoke and said, I don't want to be a part of your network anymore. Okay. If you guys are good, then I think we're good for this live stream. A couple of notes. First of all, before we get into a couple of the other announcements, I want you guys just to remember that CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. You see their logo at the bottom of your screen. Friends, I know we never like to think about it, but please just keep that in mind. When and if we get storms and you have an opportunity that you need a lawyer, you need someone to be an advocate on your side, to walk you through the insurance claim process. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You want to support someone who supports the channel, go to leanomelaw.com. Secondly, obviously been monitoring the situation with these storms over the weekend. If they become organized enough and severe enough and it requires me going on, I will do so at any point in time. So keep an eye out for that. That's why you always have notifications all on the channel. Again, I'm not going to inundate you with notifications here. It's a live only channel. So if you get a notification that I'm live, you know there's a good reason why. I do CFLW, the show, normally Monday and Fridays at 1 o'clock to give you guys an update on what I'm thinking as we go through the week. Monday's show covers the work week. Friday's show covers Friday and the weekend. Pat, we are live, buddy. Always live. Never taped. Never recorded. Always live. Yep. So just again, I'm on live right now, not because we have really intense, impactful storms in the area, but because I wasn't able to do the 1 o'clock show at 1, so I decided to do it at 7. If you do live in Brevard County, there are some stronger storms in your area. Titusville, Indian River City, Mims, Port St. John, nothing bad, just a good, healthy summer thunderstorm late on this Friday. Harmony, Holopal, again, Harmony could see, they've had several inches of rain. You never know if they could get a flood advisory there. Right now, the Metro Orlando area looks quiet. For the weekend, I do expect storm coverage to go up, so rain and storm chances will be on the improve starting tomorrow afternoon, and we'll watch out for some gusty winds produced out of some of those storms. Friends, I appreciate you again on the way out. Thanks for taking a quick second, hitting the like button. Thanks for subscribing to the channel if you haven't as of yet. And if things cooperate with these storms of the weekend, I'll see you guys Monday at 1 o'clock for the latest edition of CFLW, the show. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate you guys. Take care. See you soon.